My name is Tom, and I'm compelled to share a tale I never thought I'd have to tell. It's one of the most heart-wrenching episodes of my existence. It started with a persistent unease, a feeling I tried desperately to ignore, to shove deep down, but no matter how hard I fought it, it lingered. Sarah, my partner of 9 years, and I had built what seemed like a perfect life. We had 2 children, Ethan, our 6-year-old boy, and Lily, our 4-year-old girl. A house we adored, steady jobs, and a life that others might envy. But somewhere along the way, things changed. At first, the shifts were subtle, barely noticeable. Sarah started coming home later each night from her workplace. When I inquired, she'd mumble, just finishing up some tasks, or there was an unavoidable meeting. Initially, I dismissed it, but as the weeks went by, these late returns became routine. I tried to stay understanding. Work can be intense, I told myself. Yet small discrepancies began to emerge. Her phone was always placed screen down on the table, always secured with a lock. She'd slip into another room to answer calls or send texts in private. I tried to convince myself I was overthinking, that fatigue and pressure were distorting my perspective. Deep down, though, I knew something was wrong. Our bond had unraveled. The warmth and closeness in our conversations had faded. She became distant, and my frustration grew. I wondered, what happened to the woman I pledged my life to? The one who used to share laughter and every piece of her soul with me. The intimacy we once cherished was gone, and the gap between us widened each day. One night, after another late arrival, Sarah walked in near midnight. Her exhaustion was clear, but something else hung in the air, a reluctance in her steps, an aversion to meeting my eyes. That was the moment I couldn't bear the uncertainty any longer. I needed clarity. So I did something I never imagined I'd do, something that still stuns me. In a moment of anguish, I set up a hidden camera in our living room. I wasn't certain what I was looking for, but I told myself it would only be for a short time, just a glimpse into what happened when I wasn't around. I needed to know if my suspicions were valid. Was Sarah truly just drained from work, or was something more sinister at play? I didn't want to believe it, but a part of me already feared the truth. The next day, after Sarah left for work, I sat down to review the footage. My heart pounded in my chest. The screen flickered to life, showing Sarah entering as she usually did. But then something froze me in place. A man walked in behind her, tall with dark hair, wearing a black jacket and jeans. I didn't recognize him. Who was he, and why was he in our home? My pulse raced as I watched their exchange. It wasn't a casual visit. They embraced, their lips locking in a deep, passionate kiss. Not a quick peck shared with a colleague or acquaintance, but one brimming with intensity, meant for lovers. My breath hitched. I paused the video, needing a moment to process what I'd seen. My wife, the person I trusted completely, was kissing another man. My hands shook as I replayed the footage, hoping I'd misseen. But it was unmistakable. Sarah was betraying me. Worse, I realized this wasn't a one-time lapse. This had been happening for a while. Sarah didn't bring this man into our home on impulse. They sat together, talking, laughing, sipping wine. I saw the way their gazes locked, the gentleness in their touches, the way Sarah's face glowed for him. This wasn't a brief fling, it was something profound. My world crumbled. How long had this been going on? How had I missed it? But the pain didn't stop there. It grew sharper. Later in the footage, Ethan and Lily came bounding downstairs to greet their mother. My heart sank as they ran not only to Sarah but to this stranger, now relaxed on our sofa. Ethan, without a pause, dashed to him, shouting, "Uncle Chris!" Lily followed, laughing as she wrapped her arms around him. Uncle Chris. My breath caught. My 6-year-old son, the boy I'd nurtured, was calling this outsider by a warm, familiar name. My children, my heart, had already formed a connection with him. I was the one who'd always been there, helping with schoolwork, playing at the park, reading bedtime stories. Yet this man, who had no right to be in our lives, was stepping into my role. Tears filled my eyes. How many times had Sarah passed him off as a friend? How long had this deception been unfolding? My children, so pure and unaware, didn't know their safe little world was collapsing. That evening, when Sarah returned, I couldn't hold back. I confronted her, not with rage or shouting, but with the stark truth. I showed her the footage, letting her see her own betrayal. The look on her face, shock, guilt, remorse, will haunt me forever. She didn't try to deny it or offer excuses. Instead, she broke down in tears and confessed everything. Chris was someone she'd met at work. What started as a friendship had blossomed into something more. She admitted she'd fallen in love with him, claiming I'd become distant, that she felt isolated and needed someone who made her feel seen. Her words cut deeper than I can express. She was pointing the finger at me, as if I hadn't tried to keep our marriage intact, as if I hadn't fought to stay connected. I stood there, hollowed out, wondering how I could ever trust her again. How could I look at her the same way? She'd welcomed this man into our home, our lives, our children's hearts. That couldn't be erased. She promised she'd cut ties with him, but I couldn't believe her. The trust was shattered. The hardest part was facing Ethan and Lily. I didn't want them to carry this burden, but they sensed the rift. They saw the hurt in my eyes, felt the strain in the air. I vowed to them I'd always be their father, their rock, no matter what. But I didn't know what our family would become. The next day, I filed for divorce. I couldn't remain in a marriage rooted in lies, in a home where every corner whispered betrayal. It wasn't just about Sarah and Chris, it was about protecting my children. I couldn't let them grow up in a broken home, where trust was forever lost. As painful as it was, I knew it was the right decision. Sarah begged for forgiveness, promising to do anything to mend it, but the wound was too deep. The kids and I would have to adjust, to forge a new path. I swore to be their foundation, their constant love, no matter how tough it became. Installing that camera felt like a violation of my own principles, but what I discovered was far worse than an affair. It was the destruction of our family, the unraveling of everything I thought I understood. Yet, in the ruins, I found a crucial lesson. Confronting the most painful truths, though agonizing, is the only way to move forward. Now, I'm learning to rebuild, to heal, not just for myself, but for Ethan and Lily, who deserve more love and stability than I could have imagined before. Together, we'll find a way to be whole again.